Good evening. I will call this Tigard City Council and Town Center Development Agency to order. Deputy City Recorder Raimundo, please call roll.
Councillor Schlack.
Here.
Councillor Shaw.
Here.
Council President Wolf.
Here.
Youth Councillor Manini.
Here.
Councillor Gadusi.
Present.
Councillor Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
And Councillor Robbins.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone will please stand and join me in a pledge of allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Does council or city team have any non-agenda items this evening?
Nothing from us, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I do have a walk-on resolution that we will go ahead and do after proclamations and recognition. So we will slide that in there. So the next item on the agenda is proclamations and recognition, and we have Health for Humanity Yogathon 2025 proclamation. So if you want to come up and join us, I have the proclamation for you, and I believe there's a brief presentation and a slideshow. So if you want to come on up, please turn on, as many of you that want to come up, that's fine. Please, make yourself comfortable. And you'll just want to turn the microphone on. Yeah, you can pull up a couple chairs.
Thank you very much for the proclamation. So I would like to go over the slides. How do I change the slides? Okay, awesome. So Surya Namaskar Yajna, or Sun Salutation Yogathon that we are doing. So just a brief history. It is a yoga form. What is yoga? So yoga is not only the posture exercise that we do, but yoga, the name means union. Union of yourself with your true self or the supreme divinity. That is what yoga is. Next slide, please. So origin of yoga, or how old is yoga? So according to yogic lore, yoga is more than 16,000 years old. There are old archaeological evidence found that show 4,000-year-old yoga postures. Book-wise, the known oldest book is close to 2,200-year-old. Next slide, please. So here is just that old archaeological evidence I mentioned. Next slide, please. So I guess we can go to over next slide. So SNY, or Surya Namaskar Yajna, or Sun Salutation Yogathon. So it is a nationwide effort that we started in 2007. This is 18th year. Last year, more than 35 states and more than 290 cities participated, with close to 13,000 people doing 328,000 Surya Namaskars together. From Oregon, we had Portland participate, we had Hillsborough participate, and also some Tigard residents were there. Next slide, please. So again, this Surya Namaskar, or Sun Salutation, this is a 10 different postures done in a routine way, which are typically done at the dawn, facing towards sun. This routine helps develop. So in Ayurveda, we consider there are 5 different levels of human body. At the basic is your physical body. One level above is your energetic body. One level above is mental, then emotional, and the final is the spiritual. So Surya Namaskars, these sun salutations, help you develop all 5 aspects. And this is a way where you express gratitude towards sun, because it is, all of us are because of the sun, right? And it, in a way, it is a complete body workout that boosts your flexibility as well as strength and stamina. Not only cardio or weights, one thing for all. Next slide, please. So we have been doing this thing in schools. Last week it happened in few elementary schools here also. Next slide, please. So why do we perform it in January? So 14th of January or 15th of January is a time when Sun enters the Capricorn. Sun enters the sign of Capricorn. Basically, Sun starts moving northwards, and since most of us live in Northern Hemisphere, or this thing originated in Northern Hemisphere, that day we consider as an auspicious way to start praying towards Sun. So this year, we are doing it from Jan 18th to Feb 2nd. Next slide, please. Again, so benefits of Surya Namaskar. Here are all the things, but if I just hit the main points, helps with concentration, helps with memory learning, helps with your memory, helps with stress, reduces stress, tension. As I said, it helps with your all muscles, joints. It increases your capacity of lungs and also helps with the sleep and digestive disorders. Next slide, please. So I think next, so we can do Surya Namaskar at any time of the day. It is good to do it early in the morning facing towards sun and on empty stomach, but any time is good. Next slide, please. So just some things. If you have back injury, if you have blood pressure issues, heart problem, wrist injury, please don't do it. There are alternative Surya Namaskars now developed, chair Surya Namaskar, which you can do. Next slide, please. So I think next, some of us would like to demonstrate how Surya Namaskar is done. And I think we have enough space here. If any one of you would like to join, please do join. Chinmaji, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to bring extra yoga mats. I forgot from myself also.
okay. So I'll just leave. We'll do one set of Surya Namaskar. Just make sure that you have enough space that you can go lie down. These guys here will start the demonstration. You can follow them. You can don't stretch your body too much. How much ever you can do. That's the main thing. So we start with the first posture. That's. Can we start?
Can you come a little bit forward? Because we need to move the legs backward.
Okay. So basically, you have to go in a plank position at once. So
We have the slides, right?
Okay, yes, there are.
there are also slides, so if people watching online can follow the slides too. So we'll start with the first posture that's called as the Namaskar Siddhi. The idea of this posture is to calm your body down for the upcoming exercises. The second posture is called as Hasta Uttanasana, or hand going upward, raising your hands back. Try to stretch from your back up as much as you can. Please do not overstretch. While doing this, we breathe in. Step 3 is we go down. This is called as Hasta Padasana. Can you go to the next slide, please? Then in the next step, we take right leg back. Try to go into a horse, riding on a horse position. This is called as Asvashanchalanasana. The next step, we take the second leg backward. We try to create a flat out of our body. That's called as Dandasana. The next step is called as Ashtanga Namaskar. So you touch your knees, your chest, your shoulders, and forehead to the ground. Try not to touch your abdomen. The idea here is to stretch every of the part. Step 6 is you do into a cobra pose. This way you stretch on your back, lower back. This also relaxes your muscles a lot. Step 7, you form a mountain. This is called as mountain pose. This is also called as Adho Mukha Svanasana. The idea of this pose, again, will relax the stretch that you have done a lot. The next step is, again, Ashwasanchalanasana, but this time you bring the leg that you took behind, the right leg forward. This is basically you're going in the complementary of how you started. The next step, that is the 9th step, is again, you stand up, try to touch your hands to the ground, heads to your knees, as much as you can go. This is called as the Hasta Padasana again. And the last step is coming to the pranam pose or the normal pose. Here you try to breathe, try to calm down again. So this is like a brief demo of Surya Namaskar. Generally a set of Surya Namaskar is repeating this whole 10 asanas 13 times. So that one set actually helps you stretch every muscle of your body.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
So just come over this way and intermingle.
So on 2nd of February, in Stoller Middle School in Bethany, we are having our concluding ceremony from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. If any one of you are free, please feel free to join. It would be a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great way to start. Yeah, get the blood flowing, get moving. Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do beforehand now. The next item on our agenda is a resolution thanking Steve Reimer for his service as city manager for the city of Tigard. Nicole Hendricks is going to help me out because I don't think you want to hear me read it. And so she's going to read our resolution.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Very honored to bring forward this resolution to just take the opportunity to thank Steve for all of his service to the city. I know he doesn't like a lot of recognition, so I apologize, but we really appreciate you and we want you to know it. So I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas after 30 years of public service, Steve Reimer will retire on February 8th, 2025, having served at Tigard City as Tigard City's manager since February of 2021. And whereas City Manager Reimer has served as city manager for the city of Tigard with dedication and integrity, providing leadership to guide the city's growth. And whereas under City Manager Reimer's leadership, the city of Tigard has experienced significant progress and milestones in numerous areas, including the introduction of zero-based budgeting and creation of internal service funds, the purchase of the Wall Street property for the PWPD facility, guiding the implementation of council goals, including our Tyler module implementation. It wouldn't be a meeting unless we mentioned Tyler. And successful passage of the Tigard ballot items, including the city charter amendments and the public safety levy. And whereas City Manager Reimer has worked to ensure that the city of Tigard remains an equitable community that is walkable, healthy, and accessible for everyone, always prioritizing the well-being and interests of the community. And whereas City Manager Reimer has led with professionalism and a strong sense of public service, earning the respect of city teammates, community, and elected officials alike. And whereas the city of Tigard has benefited from City Manager Reimer's vision and leadership, which will leave a lasting positive impact on the city for years to come. Now, well, I don't know if I do this part, but I'll just say the Tigard City Council, teammates, and community thanks Steve Reimer for his service as city manager of Tigard and his years of public service. So thank you. And then I'll hand it back over to you to consider.
Thank you so much for bringing it forward, Nicole. So for those of you who don't know, we don't have city council next week. It's canceled. And so this is Steve's last appearance at our city council meeting. And we really wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for the service that you've given to the city of Tigard. It hasn't been easy trying to navigate government in such challenging times. And I don't think we've had a quiet week since you've started. But I really appreciate your partnership and the thought and the compassion that you've brought to the city. And Tigard's a better place because of your service. We also have a gift for you. So we're going to make you stand up with us and take a picture. We can wait until we pass everything, let us pass the resolution. But I wanted to also hand it over to my fellow, the council, who would like to say anything on behalf of Councilor Shaw. Do you want to get us started? And then, yeah.
Just wanted to thank you, Steve. You and I started in the midst of COVID, which was an interesting time just to start within government. I really appreciate the fact that we both came from an area that was high-tech and had a fast pace, and we were really, your dedication to the city has just been incredible, and just the friendship and your years of wisdom that you were able to bring to Tigard, and then just your commitment to the city. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing the next chapter and continuing to walk with each other on the paths of Tigard and also work together. Thank you.
Well, I think I will just share a story that pretty much sums up Steve's leadership style and pretty much who Steve is as a person. So 2 summers ago, a community member contacted me, Sean Martinez. He wanted to lead a bike tour of downtown Tigard, and he said that the 2 of his favorite murals in downtown Tigard, which is the one behind Symposium in the 99, were very dirty. And he asked me if the city could do anything to clean the mirror up. So, of course, I immediately emailed Steve, say, hey, can you clean this up? And a couple of days later, Steve said, very cryptic way, saying, I found volunteers. They will clean up on, I believe, a Saturday at 10 a.m. So I was like, okay. So on Saturday, 10 a.m., I took my bike there to help out. And to my surprise, I saw Steve and his wife, Helen, there, ready to clean the mirror. So, I was expecting, teammates like Alex, leading community member, because Council President Wolf and I did graffiti paint and clean up and stuff. But to my surprise, it was Steve and his wife there. So the 3 of us spent, however minutes scrubbing and cleaning up the mirror. And, and the community member was very appreciative. He was very happy that, he took a selfie with all the people on the bike tour, and he posted, and he was very appreciative that it made his bike tour a very pleasant experience. So that story just just pretty much summed up about Steve's leadership style. He leads with his heart. He leads by example. He show up. I heard over and over again, you can pretend to care, but you cannot pretend to show up. So, he always cares about our city, the teammates, and he's always so friendly. So, so thank you, Steve, for your dedication to the city, and I wish the best in your next chapter, and I hope you have lots of adventures. So, thank you.
I'm afraid I don't have as much to say, but I do want to say that every single time I'm here, every single week, I always see him, and he has the biggest smile on his face. Just a really warm, welcoming presence. He always says hi. I always say hi, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Steve, it's hard to top what Councilor Shaw who have said. You've just been such a wonderful way for me to start at the city. You're so welcoming, always taking the time. to listen to my thoughts or, wild ideas, try to see how those fit in, and just, you are present. I had never heard that before, Councilor Hu, about pretending to care, but you can't pretend to show up. And you and your family are always out in the city, attending events, supporting the work of Tigard. And you have just done so much to move us forward in the short time that I've been here. And I know the first time I met you, we were doing a groundbreaking at Art Ruckin, and I'm like, you need to buy this property for another park. So that was my introduction. But you have done so much to invest in long-term assets that will continue to impact this community for such a long time. And look forward, I think, on some organizational committees impacting families here in Tigard. You'll continue to be active in those, and I look forward to working with you still. But just thank you, Steve, for being you and for all you've done.
So, Steve, as you may or may not recall, the first time we met was fall of 2021 on a very grainy Teams meeting, and I was a young, naive person trying to be on the budget committee. That was the first time we met, and you and the committee that were there were crazy enough to put me on there, and here I am now. And that entire journey from budget committee alternate to city councilor, you've been a resource and a role model the entire way. I've learned so much about local government from you and public service. While I'm really sad that our partnership is drawing to a close, I'm really excited for you and your family to have so many adventures in the next chapter of your life. So wishing you and your family the best.
I haven't had the opportunity to get to know you well yet, but I'm wishing you the best in your next stages.
Like Faraz, we don't really know each other very well, but the last couple of weeks, starting on City Council, you have made things very easy. You've answered all my questions and my emails going to the wrong places, and been a very warm voice and face of Tigard for me, and I really appreciate that. And I wish you the best of luck in your adventures, and hopefully they're fun and exciting with a little bit of relaxation in between. So.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 25-04.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the Deputy City Recorder read the number and name of the resolution?
Resolution number 25-04, a resolution thanking Steve Reimer for his service as city manager of the city of Tigard.
Thank you. Will the Deputy City Recorder conduct a roll call vote?
Councillor Schlack?
Yes.
Councillor Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Wolf?
Yes.
Youth Councillor Mainini?
Yes.
Councillor Gadusi?
Yes.
Councillor Hu?
Yes.
Mayor Lube?
Yes.
And Councillor Robbins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 25-04 is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. The next item on our agenda is public comment. If you would like to call in or testify by phone or video, please call in now or log in to get into the queue. The phone number is 503-966-4101. And anyone wishing to comment in public, there is a sign-up sheet at the back of the room. I didn't see any public comments received by noon on Monday. Did I miss it?
That's correct, Mayor. There were
Okay.
no public comments received by noon.
And we do have one person signed up in person, and we have Kyle. Oh, Key, thank you. Sure. Please come on up. Yep. Please turn the microphone on, and then you have 2 minutes. Thank you. Yeah. If you just want to turn the microphone on, there's a button at the front. It'll turn green. Yep. There you go. All set.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. First, I took some notes to make it a little easier on myself. I want to say, firstly, I'm not a sophisticated developer. I generally love my community and how early on it's been such an amazing experience with the city planners of Tigard. I've dealt with the city of Portland, whole different experience, so pretty cool. I have a food cart pod off of 217 in Greenberg Road. We started that last September. Prior to securing the property in 2023, I emailed with multiple planners, and I was told there was no limit to cars or special permits required. So we secured the property. Lori Purdy, who was the economic developer at the time, was amazing and handheld me through the whole process. I felt like I got VIP experience, which never again, whole different experience in Tigard, so that was pretty cool. What happened in Portland 4 years ago, I fought with the city planners over an assessment. I won, but I ended up with a heart attack at the time and kind of decided, well, this is probably not the thing for me. I actually ended up with 2 heart attacks, lost everything, and obviously was frustrated with the process. And man, just talking to Lloyd, he just made me comfortable with everything. And I thought, okay, what a cool city. I found a very special city and everything we hear in politics. So the first cart opened in February 2024. That March, we worked with planners to get a landscape modification for the pads because possibly there were some wetland issues there. I did find out that there was a new ordinance coming in for 3 carts. I was told by the planner I was working with that didn't have to do anything with us because we were grandfathered in, I guess. So we moved forward. That summer, I think Carla came out. She's doing the Bacon Park. One of your guys' people didn't do in Bacon Park, and we were all excited. We thought, oh my, what a great, cool thing where basically we all can work together.
You can keep going.
Okay. I just wanted.
Yeah.
So we were really excited about everything that we could do together, and so I was encouraged by that, and we moved on. In September, I was invited by the assistant to the new economic director, and we were excited because we were waiting all summer long because we could do like a big grand opening and do all the events. And again, Tigard just been a different experience than anywhere else, to be honest with the politics. I mean, everybody was big smile, everybody was excited, so I was just really super happy to come and meet with them. Unfortunately, when I got there, she right away said that I was out of compliance, that because we had 5 carts, it was out of compliance with the new ordinance. The other 2 carts that were sitting there waiting for their health license, they wouldn't be able to open. And then she said that if I signed a temporary use application, would be, or if I didn't sign one of those, then they wouldn't be able to open. And I kind of felt like that was a little bit coercive. And I just really didn't understand what happened. All of a sudden, we did a 180, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I just put everything in. I signed all these people up. They quit their jobs. They signed up for a food cart. I'm like, oh, what do I do now? So since then, I've been trying to work with the city planners. And again, all the city planners have been amazing. It just seems like everybody just kind of did a 180, though, on me. And so I don't know what to do at this point. I've offered, hey, I can give the development up to somebody who's more experienced, maybe even donate to the city, whatever we can do to make this thing work. I think we're in a great location. I mean, we're right there, where I think all of this should happen. Bacon Park and a food cart pod together. And what you guys are going to do with that area, I thought, wow, this is perfect. I just don't know what to do from here. I'm not experienced. I don't want to go through a legal process. That got me not where I wanted to end up. And then how would I go through that and then come back and be happy with the community? And so I'm asking for some help. I don't know, other than all I've been told is that they understand my frustration. But if I put 5 carts in there, that's just not enough. And I think that's what you guys kind of understand. Like, a food cart pod is different than just a couple of food carts in a spot where there's already the owner already has other things going on. That's just additional income. I invested everything to do pods, so I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. I just, I want to say thank you for coming to
Thank you.
us. Public comment, it's not a conversation,
Oh,
and so,
okay.
people just don't understand.
Right.
So we've taken your information, and I know that you've been in touch with the city. I've seen some of the emails go back and
Thank
forth.
you.
So we will touch base again.
Okay.
And help you work through and figure out what's going on.
Okay, thank
So
you
we'll
so
be
much,
in touch
guys.
with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being here, Kai.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wold, are there any phone callers in the queue or anyone wishing to testify by video today?
Mayor, no callers in the queue, no requests for video comment.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the city manager report. For City Manager Reimer's last report.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, good evening, Mayor, councilors, members of the community, and my teammates. This sounds really loud. It is. Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I want to start by giving you a few updates and then maybe make a few comments after what just occurred. So, happy to report that our service request system went live today. So I know all of you are aware of that. And we have had 3 requests already. So, and just to let you know, 2 are related to abandoned vehicles, and 1 is a water-related issue. So the community's aware of it, they're starting to use it, and as we learn more, we'll keep all of you up to date as well on how the system's working. So a good start to the day, it's live, and people are starting to use it. Some great updates from our library teammates, as we seem to have every week. We are going to be celebrating Black History Month through STEAM every Saturday in February, starting at 11:15 a.m. So those attending will get to know African American artists, engineers, inventors, and scientists through stories and songs. So thanks to our library teammates for really elevating the celebration of Black History Month. It's that time of year again, as all of you know, our budget season, but it's also tax preparation season. And our library is a very active hub, as many of you know, for working with AARP on tax aid. That starts on Saturday, February 1st. Appointments are available on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays through tax day, which is the 15th, and can be scheduled by calling 503-718-2517, more importantly, in visiting the library website. Just as a reminder, last year we helped out 914 community members, and members received over $800,000 in refunds. So great work by our partners at AARP supporting our community. Also got another great story from one of our patrons who joined. A grateful parent reached out to share what a difference reading to dogs during the Dogs and Tales program has made for their children. And the quote is, "I just wanted to say thank you for your work to make Dogs and Tales happen. Rowan's confidence in reading has improved so much. She and her brother also had a scare with a big dog when they were smaller, and sitting with these sweet and calm dogs has helped them a lot. She's read her prize book several times already." So kudos once again to our teammates at the library. If I can, I wanted to segue into, thank you for the recognition tonight, the kind words. Thank you, Nicole. I know you're not here right now, but I appreciate you. I also want to just thank all of Team Tigard. Some of the things you heard of today were really a result of the work that the team does, right, day in and day out. And I know there's a support for all of them. If you think just back 4 years ago when we had our first goal setting is when we created the community promise, and I think that's really helped provide a compass for this organization. We have many different documents, but I think this really brings in those 5 E's that we've talked about, and you see it often on the slide decks to things that our teammates are bringing forward, and it just gets referenced. I think that should be celebrated as something that we collectively created and the team has really embraced. I also want to thank the leadership team. The leadership team has evolved over the course of the last years, and it really evolved the last year. To all of them, a couple of them are here today. I just want to say thank you for their leadership, their dedication, their resiliency, which I don't think we've talked about that much, and they have the ultimate trust and confidence from me in their abilities and what they're going to do for this organization. And just 2 other people I want to call out. Emily is online. Emily Church and I think have become really good support system for each other, and I know I've leaned on her and relied on her quite often during the transitions that we've gone through. So just a big thank you, Emily, to you for everything that you've done, and I know you're going to continue to do in the leadership you'll bring to this organization. And the last person is my partner on my left, Shelby. You know, we've been sitting here obviously for 4 years together. We have spent countless hours together. I mean, I truly believe you're a partner in the stuff that we've talked through for a variety of reasons, but she's always been a great resource, great teammate, great colleague, and so on. I'm always going to appreciate it in my time in Tiger, so thank you, Shelby. And with that, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the report? Okay.
I did forget one thing, and this is for Councilor Wolf. Our change management playbook is live, so and for all of you. So I know change management is a big part of who we are and what we're trying to strive for. So I did want to announce that we have a playbook that is guiding our change management efforts, and obviously you will become more familiar with that as we move forward. So for all of you, thank you.
And do we get hard copies?
I was just going to say, I hope you know she wants a paper copy.
So the joke I made today is I had to put this out there and then grab it back, because I know you would be reaching for it. So absolutely. Thanks.
The next item is the consent agenda, which is used for routine items including minutes and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. Items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have a Community Land Trust Down Payment Assistance Program as a CDBG subrecipient agreement, and consider authorization of city manager to sign a grant agreement. Are there any questions, comments, or a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The consent agenda is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. The next item on the agenda is a legislative public hearing to adopt a food cart development code, chapter 18.450, and I will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify by phone or video, please call in or log in now to get into the queue. The phone number is 503-966-4101. And if you'd like to make public comment on this specific item, there is a separate sign-up sheet at the back of the room. And we have Assistant Community Development Director Warren, congratulations on the new title, to present the report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lube and City Councilors. My name is Skylar Warren, your Assistant Director of Community Development. I'm here this evening with a package of proposed legislative amendments to the Tigard Community Development Code to provide improved regulations for food cart operations. So you were briefed on this proposal back in December by my colleagues, Community Development Director Sambo Kirkman and Senior Planner Agnes Lindor. Senior Planner Lindor is with me here tonight to help answer any questions you may have. In my presentation, I'll go over some of the background and the genesis of this project, but if you have any questions regarding the process for bringing this proposal forward, please feel free to ask me. Next slide. So I want to give a little bit of history on food carts here in Tigard. When these uses first began growing in popularity, really in the early 2010s, the Community Development Department made the determination that the use at that time did not warrant special regulations or approval processes. And this decision was based on an assumption that the volume of food cart operations that were likely to be proposed in the city was limited, and that food carts were expected to be largely one or two carts on a site with other uses, primarily in the downtown area or along Pacific Highway. This worked well for a period of time as food cart operations were fairly limited within the city. However, over time, we found that this approach created a lot of uncertainty as the uses did not have a clear vested right to operate. In addition, over the previous few years, the city has seen more proposals for more than two carts. Next slide. So the team decided that the regulations for food carts should be formalized in the code, and the Tigard Made project, which many of you are familiar with, was the project selected to include these regulations. As you all know, the Tigard made code changes were approved earlier this year. However, almost immediately, we identified shortcomings in the code related to food carts. The first was that the food cart approvals were added to the temporary uses chapter. This chapter is intended to provide standards and approval processes for truly temporary uses, those that last less than 1 year. However, food cart operations sometimes continue for years at a time. In addition, we began to receive interest from entrepreneurs hoping to operate food carts as a standalone use. The MADE code did not provide a pathway to an approval for these types of operations. And then the last issue we identified was a lack of clarity and specificity in the standards that were provided. Next slide. So the solution to this issue and the proposal before you this evening is to move the food cart approvals out of our temporary uses chapter and into their own chapter. In addition, we are refining the set of standards that are narrowly tailored to this rather unique use, and these food cart uses would be approved through a separate process with a lower fee. Next slide. So the goals behind these changes are, there's multiple of them. The first is that we want to ensure that we're providing entrepreneurial opportunities in the city. We also want to encourage a wide variety of restaurants to serve the community, make our streets and sidewalks more attractive with pedestrian-friendly destinations and amenities, encourage the reutilization of parking areas, and protect infrastructure and public health, safety, and welfare. Next slide. One of the key features of this new code is that it distinguishes food cart operations into two categories that are really quite different in their nature. The first type is those small food cart operations like the ones we anticipated in the early 2010s. Those function as accessory uses on a site with an existing primary use. And under the proposed code, this would allow between 1 to 3 food carts per property in that category. The second type is larger standalone food cart operations. In this case, the grouping of 4 to 20 food carts, called a food cart pod, would be the primary use on the site and may include its own accessory uses. Next slide. So the next few slides here are just to kind of give the council an idea of what it is that we're actually talking about. These first couple are more traditional food carts. The one on the left here is actually in the city of Tigard. The one on the right is in a parking lot for a secondhand store. Next slide. So this is an example of a food cart pod, and I apologize that I don't have a better Washington County example here. This is the Heist that's in Portland on Woodstock, and it actually originated as a food cart pod that did not have a building associated with it, and they actually refurbished an older bank into a dining area for the food cart pod. Next slide. And this is what the site plan for that previous food cart pod looks like. You can see the bank there on the left. Next slide. And here's an example of a food cart pod that's got a central dining area. It's a little more intimate than the one that's shown in the previous slides. Next slide. So I'm going to run through really quickly what the proposal is before you in terms of the standards that would apply to these two food cart uses. So I'm going to start with food carts. Those are those accessory food carts, 1 to 3 on a lot. These would be required to be located on a paved surface. They need to meet setbacks from property lines, the same as any development. We also included a minimum separation between carts to ensure safety and prevent the spread of fire. Since food carts are not treated as buildings in the code, because they are mobile, they can leave the site, they cannot make permanent connections to utilities. Additionally, they would need to have the ability to separate and collect fats, oils, and grease in their wastewater to prevent clogs in public infrastructure. And then lastly, as a safety measure, if they had awnings, they would need to be collapsed when they are not in operation to reduce the risk of wind throw, because again, it's a secondary use on the site, and people are using the site for other means when the food cart's not in operation. Next slide. So now I'm going to run through the proposed standards that would apply to a food cart pod. And again, those are the standalone food cart operations ranging from 4 to 20 food carts on a site. Those would only be allowed in zones that already allow eating and drinking establishments, so restaurants. That's going to be most of our commercial and mixed-use districts. They actually fall under the indoor sales and service use category. We're also proposing that for the food cart pods, that they must have a permanent building with restrooms to serve customers, as well as food vendors to promote hygiene and safety. Buildings associated with a food cart pod that are over 800 square feet and any accessory structures must meet the setbacks for the zone in which it's located. And we would not allow temporary storage containers, such as shipping containers, to be used on the site. Within a site, there can be up to 20 food carts. Oh, next slide, sorry. Within a site, there can be up to 20 food carts, and those food carts must be located within marked stalls that are 375 square feet or less. Those stalls must meet setbacks and minimum separation requirements and include permanent utility connections at the stall. Next slide. And then the food cart pod must manage fats, oils, and grease in a central location. Lastly, any temporary awnings or membranes are allowed, provided they do not exceed a certain height and area, and that they are adequately anchored to the ground to prevent wind throw. Next slide. So in drafting these recommended standards, we worked with a number of stakeholders, including our internal teams in public works, engineering, economic development, our colleagues in other cities with successful food cart programs, the Tigard Chamber of Commerce, and food cart entrepreneurs who are proposing new food cart developments. And of course, Planning Commission as well heard this prior to council. Next slide. So with these amendments, the Community Development Code will have 2 new application types, and that will require an additional change to the fees and charges schedule to include the fees for those application types. As I noted earlier, the proposal for those fees is set at a lower level than is typical for similar application types. Next slide. And then because our team is always looking at improving our code every day as we're implementing it, our dedicated team, Caitlin Dindas, who's one of our assistant planners, identified 2 areas of the code where there were some incorrect wording that had made its way into the Tigard Made project. And I believe she wrote a memo, and that's included with your council packet that details those technical corrections. There's no policy change here. They are just wording corrections in a map and in a chart. Next slide. So the Planning Commission deliberated and has voted to forward a recommendation to you this evening to adopt these regulations, and the Tigard Community Development Team, as well as our partners in other departments, concur with this recommendation. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you have before public comment and your deliberations. Thank you.
If you have any questions that you want to ask, please make sure that they're questions specific to the presentation. In a public hearing, there are no deliberations. Just, it's always a good reminder because we don't have these that often. Yeah, Council President Wolf, do you have a question?
I believe this is an appropriate time to ask the question. Thank you so much, Assistant Development Director Warren. I had the opportunity, I was absent in December, to watch the presentation and the Planning Commission recommendations. So just, this question is to educate me, and it's about the fees. So I appreciate that they're lower, but what I was interested in is the $250 per cart, and then it jumps to $5,000 for the pod, and I'm assuming that's around all the work required to create a pod. But that kind of increment for the lower number of carts versus a higher limit, just wanted clarity on rationale and kind of that thinking as a single base price.
Sure. So again, we're looking at comparable fees. So I'll start with the food cart operation. So in terms of process impact, we looked at home occupations as a comparable type of operation. And we set the fee at a level that we thought, recognize the fact that this is a secondary use on the site. The site has already complied with any sensitive land requirements, screening requirements, access requirements, parking requirements, etc. And so really this is utilizing a space on the site that might be underutilized. And so it made sense in that context to keep the fee low, because it's really just looking at the cart itself. With a food cart pod, that is a standalone use, and it's much more permanent in nature, right? It's akin to if an In-N-Out wanted to locate in the city of Tigard, you're going to look at a restaurant use. How does access happen? What are the screening requirements for that? And treating it as a permanent use. So we looked at the site development review fees, which run about $8,000, and scaled back significantly from that, but still recognizing that reviewing an entire site for a permanent use such as that really requires a pretty robust look. And the other thing I would note is that under state law, our fees should be proportional to the work that we put into it, the staff time that we put into it. We have the ability to, as we process these, go back and revisit and make sure that our fees are aligned with what our actual staff expenditures are. So that is something that we can reassess at a later date to make sure that we've hit this right. And my guess is that we've underestimated a little bit in recognition of the economic development goals that we have for this use.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Any additional questions at this time? Councilor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. And just to follow on that question, so the reviews for those, if they are conforming uses at the staff level, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if a developer want to, for example, have more than 20 cards, that will go through a different review and for variance, is that?
So we don't have a prohibition on more than 20 carts. So if a operator or developer wanted to do more than 20 carts, they could submit an adjustment, the same as anyone else who wants to, deviate from the standards in the code. Of course, those aren't automatically granted. It has to meet the approval criteria for an adjustment, but presumably, under the right circumstances, that would be an approvable adjustment.
Okay, and that's still the same price for the review for variance?
We process those concurrently, but adjustments do require an additional fee.
Oh, got it.
And I would posit that it's probably proportional to the added impact of going above 20 food carts on a lot. And I guess I would also note we've done some comparable looks at food cart pods in the area, and 20 seems like the max that we would likely see. So we feel pretty confident that 20 would accommodate most of the operations in the city.
Okay,
Do you have another question?
Yeah, but I can add.
Councillor Hu, go ahead.
Okay. So for the permanent bathroom question, for permanent bathroom in the pods, so stop me if that's not the right question to ask right now. So I look at the Beaverton code, and they are more prescribing that they specify that the bathroom must have hot and cold running water. It must have a soap. It must have either dryer or paper towel, and they must the bathroom must be accessible when the FUPA operational. So do you see any problem if we don't have that specificity in the code, or does that imply that the bathroom must be operational during the open hours?
I think it's implied, and it's also enforced outside of the development code with the health code. And I'd give the, to go back to my In-N-Out example before, if In-N-Out were to, apply to locate a restaurant in the city, we wouldn't regulate through the development code the provision of paper towels and soap and that nature of things. So it's what's been proposed here is more on par with the way that we would treat any other restaurant. The only difference is because it's not subject to quite the same health department code. We felt it was necessary to highlight that permanent bathroom facilities should be provided on a site that has the kind of impact of 4 to 20 food carts.
Got it. So it's already regulated by something else, so we don't have to.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that most of the sites that would be hosting a food cart pod are likely to be, redevelopment or reuse, and so there's probably already a building on the site as opposed to really an operator needing to build a new building for restrooms. It's more about making the restrooms available, as you're noting.
Got it. And one more question. So going back to, the member probably know that, prior to meeting, we send staff questions and it's published, the answer is published in the meeting packet. So I just want to go back to revisit the question about declaring this as an emergency. Can you just, I read your answer, but, can you just give us a little bit more of what will happen? What's the worst case scenario if this is not effective immediately? And, instead of, usually effective 30 days, right? If there's no emergency clause. So why does 30 days so important in this situation?
For us, so, I want to recognize the sort of truism that there are no emergencies in planning. And I think in my time here, we've not brought any land use ordinance before the council as an emergency. However, given the gaps and the inadequacies in our code to address proposals that are before us now from entrepreneurs, you've heard from some tonight in the public comment part of the agenda, we recognize the time value of money, and we recognize that we want to support as much as possible our entrepreneurs locally and to provide standards that could allow them to get approval and begin operating as soon as possible. So it's less about addressing an emergency public health and safety measure than it is about opening up that opportunity as soon as possible. Though I will note that one of the gaps in the code right now is provisions regulating the management of fats, oils, and grease. That is a public health emergency because it does have an immediate impact on the city's infrastructure. So we would want to address that as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Shaw.
Great, thank you. Councillor who asked my bathroom question, so thank you. Question on the fats, oils, and grease, because that actually can be a huge problem if it's not managed correctly. Who has jurisdiction over that, and how often are they inspected, and is it very similar to a restaurant?
So I've learned a lot about fats, oils, and grease in the course of this project. So the it's a bit of a patchwork. So, you know, the building code has some effect over how your fats, oils, and grease trap is installed to make sure that it meets code. Clean Water Services and the Health Department all have some regulatory role, and of course our own Public Works Department in, you know, inspecting our lines is in an indirect way also looking at whether fats, oils, and grease are being successfully managed at businesses upstream from the pipes that they're inspecting. So it's really a team effort among multiple agencies, and I will also note that it's an education endeavor as well. So a lot of the health inspectors will actually do education with business owners to make sure that they know the, you know, frequency to clean their traps out and that kind of thing. So there's no one agency, and it's typically not planning, but in this one instance, we have a little bit of a nexus to make sure that that program is successfully managed.
And just one follow-up, how often are they inspected, the traps?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to, but I can follow up and let you know.
Councillor Schlack.
Thank you, Mayor. Casting my mind back to the December meeting where this topic first came before, admittedly a smaller version of this council, we spent a decent amount of time talking about system development charges, which I didn't see, or maybe I'm just not recalling offhand, that come up as part of these code amendments that are before us. Will that be coming, will that be proceeding in any form? All right.
Well, we anticipated that question, and I'll note first that the action tonight is an action to change the land use policy related to food carts, and Senior Planner Lindor is with me here tonight and can answer more of your questions related to system development charges as they apply to food carts.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Lube and councilors. My name is Agnes Lindor. I'm a senior planner. So just wanted to give you an update on kind of what the other jurisdictions in the region are doing and where we kind of land in between them. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Our neighbors to the north, the city of Beaverton, they do charge for food carts, and they established basically 200 square feet per cart, and they apply the it's called the fast food rate, which is the ITE category that's out of the engineering manual that talks about different trip generations for different uses. So Washington County implements what's called the Transportation Development Tax, and basically the cities implement their program by collecting the fee. And the county direction has been to apply the fast food rate, which is basically the most similar type of use. So that's what Beaverton is doing. And they also did, when this became a much more popular concept, they did some traffic analysis on existing pods that they had in their city. And after the traffic studies, the trip generation was actually higher than what the Washington County TDT rate was. So they are now applying the TDT recommended rate, which is the fast food one. City of Tualatin is similar to what our policy was before. They only allow them as temporary uses. They don't allow any utility hookups, and therefore they don't charge any SDCs for any of their food carts. Hillsborough is similar to Beaverton, where they do charge all of the SDCs for food carts, and their I guess their fee is based on not the 200 square feet, but an 8 by 16. So I think it's 128 square feet is what they charge per cart. And they also have, basically it's like a restaurant use, so similar rate to kind of what Beaverton is doing. And then Gresham is also exempts carts because they call them vehicles. And they do charge, however, they do charge for like the dining halls or accessory structures that are used for people to eat there while they're visiting the carts. So for Tigard, I did look at, did a little analysis of what the fees would be per 200 square feet if that is what we decide to go with. So just to give you an idea, the fast food category is about $37,000 per 1,000 square feet. So based on a 200 square foot cart, the city of Tigard also has a city-specific transportation SDC in addition to the county one. So basically the total for all of the transportation impact fees for one cart would be about $13,479.12. And then for parks, it would be about $700 because they're charged a little bit differently. So that's kind of the analysis that that I did some research on, and our proposal would be to be consistent with Beaverton by charging the fast food rate, yeah, so that I'm happy to answer any questions.
One thing that I'll note really quickly is that the SDCs for the pods are not tied to the carts themselves, but to the stalls that are where the carts are located and where the utility provision is located. So in that sense, the charge is not for the carts themselves, it's for the stall that would host the carts.
And just to make sure I understood that correctly, that was around $13,000 per total, or just per 1,000 square feet? I may have just got mine. Per cart.
That would be, that's the 200 square feet. Yes, so it would be per cart.
And I understand this is a land use ordinance. These system development charges, would these be considered separately by the council or just go into effect with this, or how would that rollout work?
So there would be no change in needed. They would just be implemented through these regulations.
Thank you.
Councilor Robbins.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question regarding the ordinance and the grandfathering in of food cart pods. It says in the ordinance that a food cart pod that was established prior to January 31st can continue to operate as is, provided it meets certain requirements. So my question is two parts. One, do we have any current food cart pods that would continue to operate? And two, the requirements that are listed do not include having a permanent bathroom. So do the ones that we currently have a bathroom, and is there any plans, if so, to work with those existing pods to somehow incorporate a bathroom in the future?
So it's an excellent question, and the answer that I'm not pleased to give you is that we don't really know what food cart pods might exist out there. Because of the city's lack of policy over the course of several years. And that gets back to the issue that I raised about that these uses did not have entitlements that recorded the ability to continue that use over time. They were handled in an ad hoc fashion, and it could be that there are some that would actually qualify as a food cart pod because they have 4 or more carts. One of the implementation measures that we're going to undertake with this, should the council adopt it, is that we are going to send out a mailer to all of our businesses that are in our database to let them know that these food cart changes have happened, and that if they have food carts on their lot as of the effective date, they can notify us, and then we will keep a database of all those businesses and their sort of vested rights as a non-conforming use. And as long as the use doesn't change, they can continue to operate. That's above and beyond what we would normally do for a non-conforming use. Normally with a non-conforming use, if an applicant comes in and they want to continue a non-conforming use or they want to rebuild a non-conforming development, they have to provide a pretty significant amount of research and data and evidence that shows that they actually have that vested use that they can continue even though it's non-conforming. In this case, we are proactively reaching out to businesses so that we can make it easier for food cart entrepreneurs and for those businesses that are hosting those food cart entrepreneurs, because we don't want to get in a situation where someone who's running a small business suddenly is digging through receipts to show us that they had a food cart. If we can get information back from them that says we have this food cart, we might go out and spot verify here and there, but the important thing is that we then have at least a partial database that reflects those non-conforming carts that are out there.
Councillor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. And to follow up on that question, if you're going to notify those potential businesses, would it make more sense to also establish some sort of deadline? Say if you don't let us know you have pre-existing use by January 2026, you are out of luck. You are not entitled to grandfather use anymore.
So I didn't mention that, but we actually were going to give a deadline for people to respond to us.
Right.
We haven't set an actual date. It wouldn't be 2026. It would be something like 60 to 90 day range,
Okay.
something reasonable that.
But it's not in the ordinance right now. So is that
It's
the
not in the-
deadline you set legally binding if it's not in the ordinances?
So the food carts themselves are already non-conforming because they don't have a vested land use.
Right.
What we're offering is not
Grandfather.
we're not offering a legal status to them other than to proactively reach out and say, would you like to be on the list of legal non-conforming
Right.
food carts, so that if you come in with a proposal, staff sees that there's a food cart on your lot, wait, where did this food cart come from? Do you have a permit for it? If we see that you're in the database, then we know that that was a vested,
Got it. Okay.
like legal non-conforming food cart that existed prior to the code. So there's no need to sort of regulate that within the code itself. It's a implementation measure that we would be doing at a staff level to actually roll the code out.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolder, are there any callers in the queue or anyone wishing to testify by video?
Mayor, there are no callers in the queue and no requests for video comment.
Okay, we didn't receive any written comments by noon regarding this item. Deputy City Recorder Raymundo, has anyone signed up in person?
Not at this time, Mayor.
All right, thank you. And so I will close the public hearing. And now we have council consideration of ordinance 25-01. Does anyone have additional questions or now comments regarding the ordinance? Councilor Robbins?
Thank you. I do have one comment. Just to clarify, I believe you said that we wouldn't, with this new ordinance, have any restrictions on having more than 20 pods, more than 20 carts in a pod. But I do read in the ordinance that food cart pod standards specifically says for line D, the food cart pod must not include more than 20 food cart stalls. So just for clarity.
Should I answer that, even though you're okay? So, in the development code, any regulation except those that are listed specifically in the adjustments chapter can be adjusted through that procedure. So, if you had a shed that you wanted to locate within the 5-foot setback of your backyard, you could come in, get an adjustment to change that regulation as it pertains to that. So because the code does not say that more than 20 carts are prohibited, then we have the latitude to adjust it through that separate process.
Councillor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, overall, I'm very supportive of this ordinances. I think it's a great way for people to get a business started without a permanent structure. And I also appreciate Skylar including his memo a proposal to just flat out ban drive-through, because that's what I really advocate for. Because if the purpose of this is to promote pedestrian-friendly facility, then I believe we need to make it explicit that we will not permit drive-throughs in this in all the food pots. And I also really appreciate Skylar mentioning the grease and oil the aspect of it, because before that I was hesitant about declaring this as an emergency, because I just don't want to short circuit the democratic process, because my understanding is that whenever we pass an ordinance, voters have 30 days to gather signature if they don't like it, to refer this to voters. And I do not want to short circuit that willy-nilly without justification. So that grease justification is spot on. So thank you for that. So yeah, I will support this ordinances with the amendment to ban drive-through service. So thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Schlack?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question regarding the process for making the amendment, which I think the city attorney may be the appropriate person to ask. Would this be two motions, one to approve the ordinance and then a second one, or just we'll just says to amend that one section as opposed to approve the entire ordinance? I would like to get some clarity on that.
Yes, thank you. So the process would be one vote to amend the ordinance, and then a second vote to adopt the ordinance as amended. Is our Robert's Rules of Order.
Can you do both with one motion?
Technically, you're supposed to do it in two separate parts.
Okay.
Can I make? Is it all right to make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to amend section 18.750.030 by adding a new provision F with the language, quote, drive-through services are prohibited for food carts and food cart pods, end quote.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have to go through the whole readings, or can I just do that by voice?
You can do that part by voice, and then the ordinance would be roll call vote.
Okay. Any additional discussion on the motion? Okay. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ordinance amendment has been passed by unanimous vote of the council.
I move to approve resolution number 25-05.
Ordinance?
I am looking at the wrong thing. I thought it said resolution. Where am I? Yeah, I move to approve ordinance number 25-0501. Let me say it again. I move to approve ordinance number 25-01.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the Deputy City Recorder please read the number and title of the ordinance?
Ordinance number 25-01, an ordinance amending the Tigard Community Development Code regarding food carts and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Will the Deputy City Recorder conduct a roll call vote?
Councillor Schlack?
Yes.
Councillor Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Wolf?
Yes.
Councillor Caducci?
Yes.
Councillor Hu?
Yes.
Mayor Lube?
Yes.
And Councillor Robbins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. Thank you. And now there is a resolution regarding the fees and charges schedule. Is there also,
I move to approve resolution number 25-05.
I'll second.
who wants that one? Anyone?
I gladly give way to Councilor Shaw on that second.
Just trying to make it easy on our recorders. I appreciate it, though. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would the Deputy City Recorder please read the number and title of the resolution?
Resolution number 25-05, a resolution amending the citywide fees and charges schedule to be consistent with recent amendments to the Community Development Code of the City of Tigard and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Will the Deputy City Recorder please conduct a roll call vote?
Councilor Schlack?
Yes.
Councilor Shaw?
Yes.
Councilor President Wolf?
Yes.
Councilor Caduce?
Yes.
Councilor Hu?
Yes.
Mayor Lube?
Yes.
Councilor Robbins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The resolution is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. The next item on our agenda is a capital improvement plan, and we have City Engineer Wisniewski to be presenting. Welcome.
So, Mayor, can I ask City Attorney Rahala a quick question?
Sure.
So I do have a Robert Rules question for you, because I thought if a motion had not been put on the floor, you could amend the motion in one shot because the motion wasn't on the floor yet to be amended. So.
See, that's also what I thought, because it's weird. It's weird to amend something that doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist. So just putting that out there. So that's where I was a little bit off, because in my head I'm going, well, I still don't understand why we did that.
That's
So
why I had to
anyway,
double check. Yeah. That's why I just kept looking confused. Yep. Welcome, Joe.
Good evening, Mayor Lube and councilors. For the record, I'm Joe Wisniewski, City Engineer within our Public Works Department. This evening, I'm here to present our quarterly capital improvement plan update. And just to give a little run of the show, I'll start with a very high-level introduction to the CIP. So I want to say hello to our new councilors. It's probably very fresh to you. And then there will be a little bit more of a deep dive as part of the budget committee process coming up. So you get to hear a lot about the CIP program. So if we would, next slide, please. This first one here is just a little bit of an introduction. This is more of the budget side of things. So within the adopted city budget, we have a CIP in brief, and it just gives a very high-level introduction to what is included in our CIP. It covers the 6 systems that you'll hear about tonight. There's parks, streets, stormwater, sanitary sewer, facilities, and then we give a little bit of a highlight of the dollars and the amount of funding sources that feed into all of the projects. So if we would, next slide. To give a little idea of what the planning process looks like for developing the CIP and ultimately leading to projects that we get to deliver, we have this graphic in front of you that's also included in the budget documents. The first step in the entire process is really system planning, and that is where we have a robust engagement with the community, with council. We learn about what the priorities are of the community and council goals that really drive the needs of our system and help us develop the project list. And we look at a longer range planning, outwards of 20 years. And then as we go into the capital improvement plan development, that's where we narrow that down to a realistic 5-year look at what we can deliver with the funding and the revenue that we have. And then at the budget adoption process, the council, you will actually adopt the budget for that upcoming fiscal year. So in the budget documents, we do have the 5-year CIP, but you do on an annual basis adopt the budget that gives us the appropriations to spend to each capital project. A few things to highlight here in that system planning effort. Some of the touch points are you adopt the system plan. You will also get briefings throughout that entire process so that we have feedback from council on where we're going with our planning and our long range look at all of these systems. As we move into the capital improvement plan, we call that more of the consult phase. And this is where, in addition to the budget committee meetings and council adoption of the CIP, we also consult with the various boards and committees that we have. So some of them are Tiger Transportation Advisory Committee, Park and Rec Advisory Board, and the Water Advisory Board to get their feedback as we put together the budget. And then when we get into project delivery, we also call that a consult phase, but it's more communication at that point, updating the community and council what we're doing with the projects that have been vetted all the way through the system planning and budget process. And then also council as the LCRB, you're approving the contracts and giving us the authority to spend the money on design, construction, all the way through the full process of delivering projects. And then from there, the new asset or upgraded asset goes into operations, and you kind of see it's a wheel where through our asset management process and programs, we just keep going through this cycle then of continuing system planning, which is on a 5-year cycle for updating all system plans, and we just keep going through that process. So now moving on, next slide for tonight's item, it's the capital improvement plan update. These are all focused on projects that are budgeted for fiscal year 25. Some of them are in various stages of the project, from planning level effort, design, and some of them are wrapping up in construction. So we'll cover very high level on each project. There's approximately 50 of them that are in fiscal year 25. So I'm going to give you just a very tip of the iceberg, and then if you have any questions, let me know. In your council packet last week, there was also the project manager worksheets. Those go into more detail. Happy to see you have one in front of you. And so we'll go through whatever questions you might have tonight. Mayor, feel free to stop me as we go if you want questions system by system, or I'll just keep rolling until I see a question or a nod from you.
Yeah, I think let's go system by system. That's probably the best way to do it, because we'll forget what the question is by the end.
Okay, so after each system, I do have a project highlight with some photos. So when those slides come up, I'll take a pause. Next slide, please. So our first system to highlight is our park system. Fano Creek Trail Connections project has been a long time coming. We're happy to say that there's 4 segments on that trail project, and 3 of the 4 are substantially complete. The 4th one being the Durham segment down by Cook Park. It is, it appears complete. There's some corrective action that we're working through with our contractor on that one. So come spring, that segment should be wrapped up as well. But hopefully you've been out in the community and seen that. It's an amazing project, and I do have some photos of that one at the end. River Terrace Community Parks, that project will close this year. It's complete. It was for the purchase of land in the River Terrace area that a developer is now wrapping up construction on the new community park called Blueberry Hill. Steve Street Park and Trail, we are wrapping up design and hoping to go into bidding phase here early 2025, calendar year 25, and then construction will depend on permit issuance and some land use effort, but hopefully later this fall we'll see construction announcements on that one. The Lasage Park property plan, this is developing more of a master plan for the Lasage property. That one has a very long time frame ahead of us for when that property can come into city zoning. But as part of this master planning effort, we are considering what we can do with that property under county zoning rules, and we're going to be coming back in the future with some proposals on possibly making some improvements out there as part of what this master planning effort is looking at. And then the trail system plan, we have a trail system plan right now. It's definitely outdated, and so we've kicked off this new update. We do show the schedule as yellow with some minor impacts, and that's more because we've identified we need a phased approach to this planning effort. And so the first phase is underway, meeting schedule, The second phase is going to be contingent on some proposals we have for funding trail improvements and where we go with that. So more information to come on the trail system plan in the near future, but just want to touch a little bit on why that one looks like it's yellow. Next slide, please. Still on parks projects, this one is the Beg and Park project. We are working on design. We're currently coordinating with Clean Water Services. They are proposing a very large sanitary sewer trunk line project that will be going through the same parcel. So we are showing the schedule as yellow as a potential minor impact contingent on what their construction schedule is. We didn't want to develop a park and then have a utility project come through and impact a brand new park. So we're working out some logistics with the utility providers out there. Cook Family Park accessible boat ramp. This project is showing yellow as budget, mostly because we don't have answer on some of the grant funding yet. We're working on grant applications for the phase 2 part of this work. Phase 1 was the removal of the old wooden dock and installing a new dock as a replacement for that one. The new dock should be in by May of this year, and then phase 2 will be dependent on the results of our grant applications for the accessible dock and the gangway that's going to be added on. Copper Creek and Cook Park stream stabilization. If you walk the trail going out of the west side of Cook Park, you may notice there's some stream work that's, or some stream area that's eroded off of the Tualatin River. Our maintenance crews have been maintaining some culverts out there, and it's starting to jeopardize the trail. So this project is under design, and we got about a year out yet till we get to construction, but this will be armoring that bank and taking care of the erosion that's impacting the trail, and there's some sanitary utilities in that area that are at risk of further erosion impacting them. And then the final project in parks is the Fano Creek Trail segment between Bonita and Durham. This is one of our last remaining gaps in the Fano Creek trail system. It's probably the final one because it's the most expensive segment to deliver and most complex. We do have a grant funding the planning effort to help set us up for better success in the future on grant applications for construction. When we applied for the original grant, we were shorted some funding in there, and we had an opportunity to apply for redistribution funds from the same grant program through Metro. We've verbally been told that we are receiving that funding, and we're just waiting for Metro to go through all their approval process to have that awarded, but it's very promising that the money will be coming in for that project. So it is showing a minor impact, but we're very happy that we're getting that feedback from Metro. So next slide, please. Here's just a few project photos from the Fano Creek Trail Connections project. On the far left, or my left anyways, is the segment down by Durham going through Cook Family Park. And then the center photo is the one of the many bridges that were part of this project behind the library. And then on the right side is a rest area along that same segment behind the library, between the library and Milton Court. So, and with that, I think that's a good spot to stop for any questions on the park system.
No questions, but I know Council President Wolf has some questions about grants and federal funding and those sorts of things, and the Cook Family Park boat dock is all state grants that we're waiting for phase 2. I just wanted to preemptively answer a question that you were probably going to have. Okay, yeah, the notes are in the super details of this.
So I'll just make a couple quick comments. And actually, I was going to hold that because from a global perspective, actually, I'm going to attempt to get out of the weeds and defer that to City Manager Reimer. And we can talk about that at the end, if that makes sense, about the impact that federal dollars play in really all of the SIP work. So I'll pause. Thank you, Mayor, and I know you're reading my mind. But the one question, if I may, that I do have, and again, Joe, this is kind of a broad system. And I remember talking, one of my first meetings that you presented this 2 years ago, and when, right out of the chute was Fano Creek. And I remember your comment that, this project just continued to grow and grow, and that it's been over budget, for a while. So my question is, as I love these sheets too. It was really helpful, so thank you for sharing those. As projects continue to grow, right? Because typically the numbers went up and not often down. So is it that you're adding scope, adding phases, therefore the budget stays green, as opposed to getting out of budget and the budget goes yellow or red? Because that's consistent like through the whole thing. So again, this is kind of a global question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually, one thing I would like to have, so before I answer the question, I also would love to have feedback, you could give it through City Manager Reimer after the meeting as well, on what information you would like us to share and how you would like to see that. So the one way we look at the lights, the red, yellow, green, is more, is it do we have an immediate or near-term issue, or is there an issue still pending, or we see a risk coming up? So with like the Fano Creek Trail, let me just look right back at that really quick. We probably show that, well, we kept it as red. If it's currently budgeted and we're within the current budget, we could show that as green, as there's not a current issue because we've been through the budgeting process, the money is there. Or I would like that feedback as well, as even though we budgeted and added the money, do we want to keep that history going with it like we did on this one, that it's been an issue, even though it's fully funded now, we're still recognizing that issue has been there, that we continuing to add funding. I'm happy to show it either way. It would be nice to have feedback on what council would like to see on that, because if we come back for budget committee for next year and we add money to a project and now all of a sudden it's fully funded, it would look good, but there's been a history there of not being funded.
Sounds like another color. But thank you, and I appreciate the question back, and I'm sure that's a different conversation, but that helps explain kind of how you stay in the green, but yet the budget continues to grow.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate the opportunity to have that conversation.
It doesn't have to be. We can have it now. I mean, maybe I'm jinxing us, but I don't foresee it being like a 20-minute conversation. I like having it read. I like indicating, that there was some history or something about it, that there was an issue based off of the original budget. I like having it read. Okay.
I would agree. If there's an added scope, if something dramatically shifted, to me that's different, because you changed the project, right? But if it's just costs or more, that's life that we live right now.
There was a bump in the project, and that's indicated at some point, even though it may be going smooth now, there was something, Councilor who?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Fano Creek Trail connection update. I don't know, when I look at red, it's a budget major issue, but the trails are pretty much done. It just doesn't make sense to me, though, for some reason. I like how you cross out the previous budget several times, and with a more and more increased budget, that makes sense to me. But I'm not sure I agree with the mayor and council president that putting a red is, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. It's already almost finished, so why is it red? So I don't know. Sorry to complicate things.
That's what I get for jinxing us. Council President Wolf?
So I think there's two points, right? So to me, is it fully funded? Do we have the money, and did it come in on budget? And so to your question, yes, it's fully funded. So maybe that's, again, different color, but it's a green dot. But did it go over budget? Then that's a red dot. And because I think you're saying it's done, so it's green, it's good. But I'm like, yeah, but we didn't track that history that it went over budget. So.
Yeah, but there's already 3 cross out over here. said, of the previous budgeted amount. So that makes sense to me. But
So this is the accountant in me. I honestly, I think that's what it is.
okay, I'm
So-
not an accountant, so
Yeah, the accountant and the data people, yeah, this makes total sense that, yeah. I think a majority of us, though, tend to like the red, so I understand your perspective, but I think I
Okay.
was hearing head shakes from, or seeing head shakes from Councilor Slack. Councilor Gadusi?
Well, head shakes. I'm fine with red. Red's a great color. Do you want me to stay on topic with color scheme or just general feedback? I'm slightly confused
Let's
right
do
now.
stay color scheme answering this particular question before we go off the rails for something else.
I think simpler the better. Traffic light's very intuitive, so I think that's fine, but I understand concerns about trying to navigate that nuance of projects over a several year period.
Councilor Gadusi?
And I like the way that it's been presented. I like the red. To me, that oversight ends up being more sensitive, which is something that I'd like to go into. So if it's red, then I know it's something that I need to dig into. It's not necessarily indicative of a problem, but something that I need to just read more closely. So thank you.
Welcome, Assistant City Manager Trich. Would you like to join the conversation?
I couldn't help myself. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Emily Trich. I'm your Assistant City Manager. I am so thrilled by the excellent work our engineering team has done with dashboarding our several projects and their many phases. And I also wanted to share some great news that we have approved and made progress on a new software solution, and not that software solves everything, but by next year you will actually have a dynamic dashboard available to you as well as to the public that will give you status of CIP project spend and also a status of project delivery. The software formerly known as Questica, and I don't know their new name, is currently being configured by our IT team and integrates well with Tyler. So as we move through budget and as projects are spent down, you can actually see in a more dynamic manner the status of projects. And I'm not sure about configuring colors or different things, but I did want you to feel hopefully reassured that there's another solution and another opportunity for very hopefully transparent communication about our project status on the horizon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Robbins, did you want to add anything?
This might be making it a little more complicated than we want, but what about doing the circle with a line and half red, half green, perhaps red to point out that there was an issue, but green that it is fully funded or currently okay?
I see that as going down a rabbit hole between when is it I think it's a great, yeah. I just think the simpler the better, and that this information is really helpful, but the colors at like a basic glance let you know whether or not, it's on track or not. So I think the majority of council have approved of the colors we're currently going with. That being said, Councilor Schlack, did you have something else you wanted to ask about the system that we're on?
Yes.
For parks?
It may be just sort of an errant question that may go to our city manager or assistant city manager. I recall at one point that the Steve Street Park project jogged my memory about the naming of that. And is that going to come before us at some point in the future?
So I believe that is still moving forward. The name is before that. Sorry that I'm not as in tune with the schedule on that, but I believe we have a couple counselors appointed to a committee to help with that. So yes, short answer is it will come back. I just don't have the schedule today for you.
Yeah, no worries. It just, I read that and it jogged my memory that didn't we have a resolution we considered at one point? And then would you be able to, I apologize if you covered this already, but the crossed out sections revising the project budgets, that's just saying basically it was budgeted in a previous fiscal year at a certain level. Actually, we've updated it here. It could be expanded scope or increase, inflation, increased costs just to do it. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah, so many of these projects have been underway for multiple years through various phases, and as we increase budget for many reasons or project changes, we try to keep that historic data on the sheets and cross that off. They're most likely aligned with annual budgeting process or quarterly supplementals that come back to council for adding funding to projects.
Thank you. I think it's great to have that history there. I would just, my only suggestion as far as information that I think would make this a little more helpful to ingest would just maybe being able to add a little bit more of that context to it as to why it's increasing, because it's not necessarily that we're trying to spend more money on it. It's just, you know, it could be just increased cost to try and do the thing we already planned to do 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that may be helpful, not just for me, but members of the public, members of our budget committee, and so on. But otherwise, I was so happy when I got this document dropped off on my doorstep, like truly. So this is really phenomenal work. Thank you.
And just to add on to what Assistant City Manager mentioned about the Questica software, our hope is that these sheets are a ongoing, always at your fingertips dashboard, and not necessarily something you only get quarterly or whenever I come to council. We're hoping the software will replace this, and you'll have a view up to date all the time. So
Yes,
this is great feedback on help us develop that new look.
Can you at least make one paper copy though for Council President Wolf?
All right.
Can we make
Was
two?
really nice.
I like paper too.
I think we're on to sanitary sewer.
Yeah, next slide, please. Oh, I'll throw you a curveball. We're going into transportation. So on the transportation system, we have, this is one of our largest systems. The first project is a pavement management program. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, our pavement management program manager was here, gave you an update on that process or that program. And about a month from now, we'll be coming back as well for a introduction to the street maintenance fee. That is the funding source on that. So it's just an annual program, working through that one just fine on budget and schedule. And then similar to that is the pedestrian and cyclist connections program. This is also an annual program that we have, and it's for various smaller projects that we identify, like rapid flashing beacons or pedestrian crossings throughout the city. And sometimes it's used to match larger grants or larger projects that can benefit from the city bringing some funding to the table to secure, like a Safe Routes to School project, something like that. So just annual program, small budget, but we go a long way with that one across the city. The next project is the Hall Boulevard and Favell Street traffic signal. We are currently in some early design effort to get all the approvals from ODOT right now as far as the warrant analysis and all that for proving that the signal is warranted for there. That seems to be going very well. We do have schedule showing as yellow because there's a little bit of risk there with the Highway 217 project still impacting this area, but our project is progressing well for design, and we'll keep everybody updated on how the schedule will be impacted if anything. It's looking okay to us right now. Roy Rogers project, that construction was completed multiple years ago. This is still in the CIP because we have an agreement with the county to pay our share of the project over a 10-year period. And so we're in the last 4 or 5 years of making that payment right now. So nothing of concern on that one. And actually the project came in under budget, so our annual payment is lower than expected. So that's a positive on that project. The 72nd Avenue pre-design CIP, we have the 10% level design completed, and we're moving into the 30% plan development for the Highway 99W to Dartmouth segment. And that the intent of this project is to develop 30% plans to have a more refined cost estimate and scope of work to go into large-scale federal grant applications. I know we're going to have a conversation around that uncertainty of federal funding right now, but we are starting to approach these larger projects in this stepped process of developing planning level designs, refining our estimates to make sure we're going in with a more of a safe approach to the grant applications so that we manage our risk on scope and cost creep without doing this step. The next one is North Dakota Street Bridge replacement. This one is definitely red on the budget side. We are seeking additional funding. We've submitted for local bridge program funds through ODOT. We are hearing that we are not receiving those funds right now. And we also have a regional flexible funding RFFA application in that we are waiting to see the results of that one, and working closely with ODOT to try to identify how to get this project delivered with significant funding shortfall. Parallel to the North Dakota Street Bridge is the Tigard Street Bridge. That one is fully funded with local funds, so we don't have any federal strings attached to that project. We have had ongoing budget issues with the project. We are confident in our estimate currently in our budget, and we are moving into final design currently. There's a planning commission hearing next week for the land use part of that project, and then we'll be securing final easements and final permits and going out for bid hopefully later this year for 2026 construction. And then the last one on this page is the Transportation System Major Maintenance Program. This is primarily focused on traffic signals and components with the signals, and doing our annual maintenance around all those locations. Next page, please. The Bonita Sequoia intersection, this is an older county MISTIP project, and we show the schedule as yellow because there was a brief pause in delivering this project when there was some uncertainty around the county continuing with the MISTIP program. That project has resumed and is underway. It's being led by the county, but we are closely integrated in the team, and everything's going well currently. The Safe Routes to School Locust Street Sidewalks project that was completed this past summer, it was to benefit the Metzger School, or Metzger Elementary School. Great feedback, thank you. And then the other two Safe Routes to School projects are actually being joined into one bid document. It's the Murdoch Street Sidewalk and Stormwater Improvements and the Safe Routes to School Templeton Tuwaldi improvements. We do have some budget concern on that, but we applied for additional Safe Routes to School funding, and that was awarded, not additional, but it was awarded as part of the Templeton Tuwaldi project and added to Murdoch project to help with that funding gap. So they're relatively in the same area, and we're putting that together as one bid packet to have lower impact to the community, only having one contractor out there to coordinate with and deliver the project at one time. McDonald Street is another project that's been in the CIP for a few years now. It was mostly delayed due to some vacancies in the engineering department, but we are almost full staff right now, and that project has kicked off. We're doing survey and field work right now. It is a very large project and going to be a multi-year effort, but happy to say that project has started. The Greenberg Road Sidewalks and Bike Lanes project is another county MISTIP project, and that is kicked off. There's consultants. The county's working on contracting for that one right now, and the issue with the budget on that one is the city didn't plan for or budget any utility upgrades, and we've identified some water improvements we would like to make. So it's a small impact to the budget, but it's some funding that we need to bring into this project. And then the final one is the ADA right-of-way program. We do show this one as red right now because we had some sidewalk work and improvements identified as part of last year's program that impact schools, and we delayed those locations until school gets out for this coming summer. So we're hoping to hit that right at the end of June, and it may go into next fiscal year depending on the schedule for that. But other than that, the program is running well. Next slide, please. Just a few more transportation projects. We have a street light replacement program. This is, there's upwards of 600 wood laminate street light poles in the city that are at the end of their life expectancy, design life. And this program is addressing that, and we'll be replacing all of them over a 2-year period. We've seen a significant uptick in the amount of these poles being damaged and PG having to replace them. And the replacement cost is very significantly higher than what it'll cost for us to do it as part of a larger capital project. So fortunately, in last year's budget process, we were able to add this program to address that need. The Safe Streets for All program, I believe we have a briefing coming to council on February 11th, so you'll hear more about that one. Everything is progressing well on that one for schedule. The Keokuts Bridge rehabilitation, there was some maintenance work identified on the Keokuts Bridge. This is the pedestrian bridge over the Tualatin River out of Cook Family Park. That work was delivered by City of Tualatin, and it's all wrapped up. Everything is done with that one. And the final two projects are ODOT-led projects that we received grant funding for. They're just kicking off with IGAs and scoping effort right now, but they're on pace for budget and schedule as well. Next slide, please. And our project highlight for transportation is just showing some of those photos from the Locust Street Safe Routes to School project near Metzger Elementary, where we were able to add sidewalk along the corridor connecting basically Hull Boulevard east or west towards Metzger Elementary. So with that, any questions on our transportation system?
Councilor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm curious about the North Dakota Street Fennel Creek Bridge project. How often is that bridge being inspected, and how many years do you think we can still get out of it before we really have to do anything about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So all of our bridges are inspected on a 2-year cycle that is coordinated through ODOT and their consultant. And then as bridge conditions deteriorate, they do go on a shorter inspection frequency. So North Dakota Bridge is on that shorter frequency. It's annual, and they will be looking at it around June or July every year. And so it's at that point right now where it's just every year tracking how is it deteriorated relative to last year. Right now we're not seeing year over year significant changes. There's concern because it is timber bridge. They do an evaluation of the timber and the amount of decay that at some point we will lose its current status of slowly deteriorating. And I don't know if any of you remember, but it was a handful of years ago we did have emergency repairs on it. That could come up again. That's some of our conversations we're having with ODOT as part of the grant funding that we're trying to secure for the full replacement. Is the longer this is delayed, the more likely it is we'll have further emergency repairs, or worst case scenario, we fully close the bridge until it can be replaced. But short answer is every 12 months it's inspected.
Councilor Shaw?
Thank you, Councilor, who asking about North Dakota. I just want to say thank you. The Safe Routes to School Locust sidewalk, we got to take the tour. Fantastic, watching kids walk and then just safely to school with the bicycle. So thank you. Your team did such a great job.
I'll pass it along. Project manager Jeff Peck delivered that, and it was a great project to complete for the community.
And I think we have another walk and roll to school day coming up next week. So you can walk along some of those roads. Any other questions? All right.
Okay. Well, we got through the two largest ones. The next one is the water system. Perfect. So Reservoir 18 is the first project on the list here. We are expecting to have substantial completion by this coming spring. The reservoir is in operation. The pump station's operational right now. Come spring is going to be further restoration and closing out that project this fiscal year. So very happy to see that one completed. That was a large project, and it was a success for alternative delivery as well for our contracting method. Next project's the Red Rock Creek waterline relocation. This project has had multiple phases, and the final phase we were hoping to deliver previously as part of some TriMet work that was proposed to come through the area. Because of the uncertainty on when that or if Southwest Corridor will ever come through, we are now proceeding with the final design for this phase 3, and it's some water fire line improvements just off of Hall and kind of going into the industrial area here just across from our where we're at today. So that project is going well for this coming year. The pipeline renewal and replacement program, the original intent of this project was to first year replace a mile of water main through the city, the second year 2 miles, third year 3 miles, and then carry 3 miles of water line replacement on an annual basis. We do show the schedule as yellow because we're finding through our risk analysis and some new technology coming out that we may propose revisiting that 3 mile goal and approach it through a different avenue of using leak detection and different sensors to identify where the repairs are truly needed, and not necessarily focusing on just replacing miles of pipe without having further evaluation. So there's a lot of pilot work going on right now. There's a lot more sensors being deployed, and we see this program being revamped into a different approach. But schedule's yellow because we're not delivering the mileage of pipe that we originally said we were going to do. But there's some really cool things with technology that our project team is working on. Aquifer storage and recovery wells 2 and 3. The majority of this work is completed. However, there's some warranty work that the contractor has to take care of at ASR 3. So we're showing the schedule as yellow because there's some concern here with closing out that project on time. The generator replacement at Canterbury pump station, both budget and schedule are yellow. We primarily had a delay on this one because it is a lower priority project, and we had some staffing issues in previous years that we didn't kick this project off as early as we were hoping for. And then the water meter modernization project is kind of similar to the pipeline renewal and replacement program. We're currently piloting some different technology. So we show this one as yellow as well, because depending on how this pilot program goes, then that will drive how we implement installing all the new water meters. Water treatment plant and RIPS generator. This is a project being led by Lake Oswego staff, where we have the water partnership. The intent of this project is to establish full hookups and a plan for having generator backup power should we have the same issue from a few years ago when we lost all of our power feeds to the RIP station and the treatment plant. So this is a response to that major ice storm we had, I think, in 2021. The lead and copper rule revisions compliance program. We're currently in a status of just monitoring the new rules coming out and waiting for further guidance from OHA on what we may need to do. But we met all the reporting criteria and inventory requirements, and we have no known lead service lines in the city of Tigard based on the current rules and inventory that we completed. And then the risk and resiliency response plan, we haven't started it yet, but we do plan to kick that off yet this fiscal year. Next slide, please, is the project highlights. And of course, it's Reservoir 18. Got some green grass growing out there. The tank is buried. I'm sure many of you have had some site visits and saw the tank before it was buried. And then in the center there is the pump station that's connected with Reservoir 18. So, water questions, please.
I have two, excuse me, I have two questions. So for Reservoir 18 and the pump station, when the water project is considered completed, does it then shift to a parks project to finish out? Or when this completes, is the whole thing going to be complete?
So the all the work currently proposed out there will be completed as part of the Reservoir 18 project, the water project. There's a little bit of restoration work, but we don't have a current CIP for full park development for Sunrise. So that'll be a future CIP brought in.
Got it.
But everything that's been committed to as part of the scope will be all part of the current work.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And as far as the pipeline renewal and replacement program, I really enjoy when we get to sit and talk casually about all of the cool technology that Tigard leverages. And I want to tell you, like, even just 2 weeks ago when I was at U.S. Conference of Mayors, I was talking about all the different ways that we're doing leak detection, and it was blowing people's minds. So I really just want to give kudos to the team for the way that we're leveraging that and really saving our community a lot of of dollars and fixing the problems that are there and finding new ways to target them. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you very much. The technology is really cool, what they can do with satellites and listening devices. It blows my mind as well.
Yeah, no, I nerd out with other public officials. They're like, what? I'm like, wait until you hear this. So it's really cool to be able to share that sort of information. Counselor who? Old habits die hard.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, speaking of cool technologies, I have two questions. One is about the advanced metering infrastructure. You mentioned that it's delayed because you are doing pilot testing, but in the sheet it says it's because the funding was moved around due to purchase of public work yard land purchase and depending on funding. So is that still the case?
That's still valid as well. We do have the advanced metering project funded in the CIP. It's out a few years.
Right.
I could look it up here. So the CIP is funding the program. It was originally going to be a very aggressive program that we were going to roll out over 2 years. So that would have been implemented by now, but we did push it out to free up that funding for land purchase.
Okay. Yeah, Councilor Robbins and I were at the Lake Oswego Tiger Water Partnership meeting yesterday, and Lake Oswego was bragging that they finished the smart meter program throughout the entire city, and they were amazed on how much water they are saving because of this new technology. So, yeah, I really hope we can get those funding back so we can start implementing the smart meter program, because that has really fit well with our climate and modernization efforts. So yeah, and the other one, speaking of that, again, the water treatment plant and our RIPS generator, again, help me, I'm a non-accountant, so the budget is almost double, but it still show green. So can you justify why it's still green when it's more than double?
Yeah, good news is the budget, the project's coming in significantly under budget.
Right.
I believe our share is currently proposed to be about 1.6 million right now.
1.6
million,
okay.
And the budget was like 2.5 is what I think it was. So we're coming in significantly under budget on that project.
Okay. But the total budget shows was 2.6, and now it's doubled to 5.5. I know that's not, Lake Oswego has their share, so why is that still green? That's my question.
Yeah, it's, I'll have to say it's probably an error on my part for not updating the budget side of the sheet.
Oh, okay.
That we're the total project costs for us and Lake Oswego is significantly coming down.
Got it, okay.
And our share is expected to be around the 1.6 billion.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, next slide, please. And these next ones will go pretty quick. I know we're over time.
Don't jinx us.
So sanitary sewer, we have the sanitary sewer major maintenance program, and these are for small pipe repairs. All of our systems pretty much have a major maintenance type program in there that is a couple $100,000 a year for more of the maintenance side of things. The sanitary sewer system plan update, this is earlier in the presentation I talked about system planning leading into all of our budgeting efforts. This is the next system plan for us to kick off, and that's expected to start in March of this year. And then the Cured in Place pipeline project, we're currently reviewing the bids for this coming year's project, and I believe in the next 2 weeks or so, Council or LCRB should be seeing that contract coming to you for approval. And then the final project is the Rotary Plaza restroom. We have a maintenance issue with the current sewer coming from the restroom, and this is to correct that issue and make it so that we can have those restrooms more operational for the community. Next page. So our project highlight on this one is our sanitary sewer major maintenance program. And what we're showing here is we identified a sewer segment that when we were doing our annual cleaning and televising, we found a major break in the line. There was a defect. We couldn't get our cameras through there. And we worked with a contractor on an emergency basis. They came in and did what's called pipe bursting. And other than the entry pit that you see on the right-hand side that they had to excavate, they were able to fuse HDPE pipe together and pull it through the current sanitary sewer, and it actually bursts the pipe and pulls the new pipe in the same alignment. And we were able to, in less than a week time of construction, totally rehab that entire segment of sanitary sewer. So it was a really quick turnaround, and we were able to utilize the funding that we had in that major maintenance program to address an emergency. Any questions on sanitary sewer? Okay, next slide. For stormwater projects, we have another major maintenance program where we repair pipes, culverts, minor stream erosion issues. Annual program, it's doing just fine. The Kruger Creek Stabilization Project, happy to say it has met substantial completion, and we're just working through some punch list items with our contractor, and hopefully come this spring we'll be closing out that project. The Red Rock Creek Stabilization and Enhancement Project, we're at 90% design. That project has come in over our original estimates for construction. So in last year's budget process, we had to push the project out an additional fiscal year due to fund levels and cash flow issues. And right now it's looking like we're able to potentially bring the project up in this next budget cycle into fiscal year 26 and actually start work as we originally planned. But currently we have it forecasted for fiscal year 27, and we're hoping to make this happen for 26. The stormwater system plan update is the update of our current stormwater plan, and that's going to start a little bit later this spring, slightly after the sanitary sewer system planning effort will kick off. And then North Dakota Street stormwater improvements, that's under construction right now, and they're just wrapping up. Even though it's stormwater, we did take advantage of our pipeline renewal and replacement program, and we're doing some water system improvements as well as part of the stormwater work, and they're just wrapping up that water portion of the project right now. And then the final project is 121st Avenue Bridge at Summer Creek bank stabilization. We have some private property being eroded from public stormwater, and this project is just kicking off the design to address that issue. Next page, please. And our highlight is that North Dakota Street. So you can see they had to do on the left-hand side a water main lowering to get the stormwater or storm sewer through, and then just a few other action shots here of installing the stormwater or storm sewer. So any questions on storm? Okay. Next slide, and I believe it's our final slide, is facility projects. The first one is a library HVAC system. This project has had some budget challenges and schedule challenges. We are working through that. We expect it to go out to bid for installing the new HVAC and chiller system at the library here in the next probably 1 to 2 months. We'll be wrapping that up and putting it out for bid, and then we're working on finalizing the schedule for when that will be actually impacting the library, because we may have a small shutdown of the library to be able to change out the HVAC system. So definitely more information come on that, but that project is moving forward. And then city facilities modernization, you just recently had some updates on that project, awarding the project director, and it's just now kicking off. So, and with that, any other questions? I believe that is my last, yep, that's my last slide for
Councilor Schlack.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any questions per se, but I do have, just thinking about the upcoming budget cycle, budget committee meetings. I really want to at least just put this out there. The team can do whatever they want with this sort of suggestion, but I'd love to find a way to really emphasize the importance of the CIP and bring our budget committee members along with the CIP process. Just reflecting on my last few budget cycles as a budget committee member, we focus a lot on general fund, obviously, since there's a lot of flexibility around that, and I feel like whenever I would get the 400-page document of the entire budget, the middle 200 pages is always CIP. It's a significant amount of where our tax dollars are going, and I always feel like while your presentation of 60 to 80 minutes during that 8-day marathon meeting is always terrific, I feel like it doesn't get across the magnitude of the CIP in the budget process. So I'd love to try and find a way to better bring along our budget committee members, especially considering that the city council does get these updates and is more in the weeds on it. If you're a first-time member and your first meeting is in April and you've been given that document without a lot of context, it's a little hard to digest. So just wanted to throw that suggestion out there and do with it what you all will.
Thank you.
Council President Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment and then a follow-up with City Manager Reimer. So, Joe, I kind of jumped into the, is it scope, is it budget? But I just wanted to thank you first and step back, and really the whole department, because as Councilor Slack said, thank you. My goodness, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars, and the amount of work really is core to how we deliver services to our community. So just a heartfelt thank you for all the work that's executed and done so thoughtfully for the city. And then my follow-up really goes back to kind of my question around federal dollars and the role that they play in our budgeting and in our funding. And so, Joe or City Manager Reimer, if you'd like to address that, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
We can tag team on this. I'll start just at high level. For the council's awareness, just with what's happening at the national level with the current president and executive orders, our team in finance, public works, our assistant city manager have been reviewing the different funding sources that we have for projects and programs, and so paying attention to both of them, not just money that we get for the projects. Joe may have a little more specificity related to any of these projects, but in some ways it's speculative, so we want to make sure that we're all kind of caution ourselves until we have final decisions on this. But I think we have some sense of where this could go. So, Joe, did you want to share a little more?
Yeah, so I think it's hot off the press that there's kind of a pause right now on federal funding. End of last week, we got a notice from ODOT that federal highways were not processing distributions of their federal monies, and then within 24 hours they sent out another notice that they were back to processing them. So it's changing very rapidly, but many of the projects have federal funding on it. The Fennel Creek Trail Connections Project had federal dollars. The North Dakota Bridge, the funding we do have on there is federalized. Just give an example, and if this does stand, those projects could come to an immediate halt based on that. So really at the point we're at right now is this just came out today that all these programs are paused or not receiving their funding currently, and the best we can do is say we're monitoring it right now, and if it seems like it's going to progress for a period of time, then we're going to have to revisit priorities of projects and how do we address what projects get shelved or not. But it's not a solid answer what we're going to do because it's just too fluid right now.
Changes by the hour.
It does, yeah.
Any additional questions? Yeah, Councilor Shaw.
This one is, I think, an older Mike. Thank you, Council President Wolf, for that question, and Joe for the answer. It is definitely a fluid situation, and I hope once we do have some additional information, if it means a groundswell of cities and working with ODOT to speak to our congressional members to apply some pressure, because these are key projects for every one of our cities in the state of Oregon. So I know we all know that, but we may just have to get into action mode here soon. But thank you.
I always love this presentation because I think we end up kind of forgetting about all of the actual projects that are going on. And I think it's really important for our community members to know what the team is up to with all of the important dollars that we spend. So thank you so much for coming before us tonight and explaining all the projects.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for all the great feedback and questions. Appreciate it.
We have no non-agenda items this evening. The Town Center Development Agency will go into executive session to discuss real property negotiations under ORS 1926602E. All discussions are confidential, and those present may disclose nothing from the session. Representatives of the news media are allowed to attend executive sessions as provided by ORS 1926604, but must not disclose any information discussed. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking any final action or making any final decisions. Executive sessions are closed to the public, and we will adjourn directly from the executive session. So thank you so much, Tigard. Have a wonderful night.